And tonight we continue the job the mainstream media refuses to do, and that's vetting President Obama. Now, in just over 3 years of his presidency, our national debt has increased by more than $4.9 trillion. And as CBS News reports, that is a greater increase than the entire 8 years under George W. Bush. Now, the debt now stands at over $15 trillion. But what's even more concerning from a national security standpoint is that nearly half of our publicly held debt is now owned by foreign countries. And as you can just see how dramatically that number has increased over the years. So as we approach the November election, it is clear that we now face a choice. We can either continue on the path of fiscal insanity, or we can chart a new course. Here to help lay out that vision is the chairman of the House Budget Committee, Wisconsin Congressman Paul Ryan. Sir, how are you?
I'm doing great, Sean. Good to be with you.
I watched, Chris Wallace was able to really squeeze out of you the willingness that you'd consider being VP. You didn't really like that line of questioning, did you?
Not really.
All right. We have other issues to deal with. All right, so the Democrats have put forward their budget. The president put forward their budget. If you look at these numbers, in July of 2008, President Obama said that George Bush was unpatriotic and irresponsible for $4 trillion in debt over 8 years. This president has done that in less than 4 years. And so the question remains, how bad is it? And when you look at the Democrats' plan and the president's plan, what does it mean for the country?
Well, it means a debt crisis. He's also saying let's add another $11 trillion on top of what he's already done. If you take a look at that chart, the red tidal wave of debt, Sean, this is the most predictable economic crisis we've ever had in this country. It's a debt crisis. Our debt literally gets out of control, and it ends the American dream as we know it. And the Senate isn't even doing a budget. So the president at least gave us a budget, and that shows you a mountain of red ink, a debt crisis, more debt, and the end of the American dream. The Senate's not even bothering to pass a budget for the third year in a row. We're passing a budget again on Thursday like we did last year, and we're showing the country exactly how we would get this debt paid off, and that's what the green line on that chart shows you, is specifically our plan for getting government spending and borrowing under control and getting it paid off.
Let me go back to this chart here, because as you know, they have demonized you every time you have talked about dealing with the foundation in terms of the problems that are at the root cause of our problem, and that's entitlement. So the green line is the Republicans' budget proposals, and you're saying the current path, the red, yellow line, red block there.
That's right.
That is the president and the Democrats' plan. You're saying that we're going to be.
Yes, that's what that's even in the president's budget. He shows us those numbers. That's what the government is telling us is our current path of debt in America, that the president is accelerating us down. We're saying let's get off this path. Let's get back to a path of prosperity and debt reduction and paying the debt off. And so what I'm basically saying is we're offering the country a choice of two futures. And so we're going to the country and saying, here's what you need to do to get back to prosperity, limited government, economic freedom, a debt-free nation for your children. And the sooner we act to do this, the easier it is to accomplish. The more you kick the can, the worse it gets, the more in peril our economy becomes, and the more of a debt crisis we have on our hands.
People seem to be short-sighted, a little bit myopic, and people only maybe think for the moment. As you look at, for example, the total government spending, and you've got the president's plan, I got another chart that I'll put up, and what they show as total government spending as a share of the economy, there's the current path, and there's your path. Now, by the way, for the record, neither one of them gets to a balanced budget, but there obviously is a dramatic difference here versus it's like 15, 12, 13, 14%, 15% versus, nearly 50% as a share of the economy. What is the net result if we stay on the path? Because you're criticized. You want to throw Granny over the cliff, Congressman.
Right.
That's the way they portray you. So if we stay on this path, what happens to the country?
Well, first off, ours does get to balance. And if you have better economic growth, ours gets to balance pretty quickly. But the point, if you would look at that chart, to put it in perspective, for the last 40 years in America, federal government has taken 20 cents out of every dollar made in America to run the federal government. What this path that we're on right now that the president is proposing says, by the time my kids are my age, let's take 40 cents out of every dollar made in America to pay for the federal government. And then by the time my grandkids are raising their grandkids, at the end of the century, we're taking 80 cents out of every dollar just to pay for this federal government at that time. No new government, no new programs, just the current promises that the government's currently making. That's what it will cost because of the explosion of these entitlement programs. And what we're doing is we're showing the country the path we're on today doubles and then doubles government again over the course of our kids' and grandkids' lifetimes and in our lifetimes.
Right,
this is unsustainable.
We all look at the gas prices, which I think is the single one issue that drives me nuts because it's preventable. The president is against, drilling and using our own energy. So that's obviously a clear difference there. I think that would help the economy, lift a burden off people that are paying now at least $100 when they fill up their cars or their trucks at the tank at the gas station. Bernanke says the job market remains quite weak. We know about the latest housing numbers are just awful, which are people's biggest investment. What happens in 2 to 3 years if the bond market says too much debt? We can't give it to you anymore. What happens?
We have a massive spike in interest rates. All the experts are telling us we have about 2 to 3 years is the time frame they tell us, which is the bond markets. Remember, half of our debt is owned by foreigners, and 40 cents of every dollar government spends is borrowed money. So we're really in debt, to a huge amount. And so the bond markets, if they turn on us, then our interest rates go up tremendously. That means car loans, housing loans, business loans, home loans, all that stuff gets really expensive. It shuts down and slows down the economy. At the same time, you can have an inflation problem that can get out of control. So your money isn't buying as much as it used to because the Federal Reserve has gotten inflation out of control. And we have a real problem on our hands.
So America is Greece. America's broke if we stay on this path. And you're saying that, I guess, everything that's happened in Greece comes here? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes. We think it's a debt crisis with bitter austerity. Cuts to current seniors, cuts to the safety net, huge tax increases that hurts the young from getting jobs, and an inflation problem and high interest rates. That's exactly what all the experts are telling us will happen if we don't fix this problem. That's why we're proposing these solutions.
All right. Thank you, Congressman. It's a warning. I hope people are paying attention.